Neste momento, eu gostaria de convidar ao palco a CEO da Esfera Brasil, Camila Camargo Dantas, justamente para a abertura oficial do evento. Camila, é com você. Uma salva de palmas.
Boa noite a todos. Eu quero começar agradecendo a presença de todos que estão aqui. Em nome da Esfera, de fato é uma honra a gente estar no terceiro ano consecutivo realizando um evento com grandes painéis discutindo temas de extrema relevância para o Brasil, aqui em Nova York, na semana do Person of the Year. A Esfera nasceu com a missão de construir pontes entre o setor público e o privado e entre o Brasil e o mundo. E hoje nós somos um dos think tanks mais relevantes do país. Temos também a Casa Parlamento, que fica em Brasília, que é um espaço permanente de diálogos com parlamentares, autoridades e líderes empresariais. E também o Instituto Esfera de Estudos e Inovação, que inclusive lança hoje um estudo sobre as relações econômicas entre o Brasil e a China. Essa pesquisa, inclusive, já está disponível, tá pelo evento, já o resumo dela, e quem quiser também é só entrar no nosso site. Mas, para dar uma resumida para vocês, essa pesquisa mostra que os investimentos da China estão vindo de forma excessiva. E, claro que investimento é bem-vindo, mas o Brasil também precisa fortalecer ainda mais as suas relações com outros países, e inclusive com os Estados Unidos. O empresariado brasileiro não deseja depender excessivamente de uma única potência econômica. E os dados da nossa pesquisa mostram com clareza que existe um interesse real de ampliar parcerias estratégicas com os americanos e com outras economias relevantes, especialmente nas áreas de tecnologia, infraestrutura, energia e inovação. E é exatamente sobre esse novo momento do mundo e da geopolítica que vamos falar hoje. Teremos, talvez, um dos painéis mais interessantes dessa semana. Vamos reunir 4 lideranças com experiências muito diferentes, mas todas profundamente conectadas com as transformações da economia global. Nosso primeiro convidado é Donald Trump Jr., empresário, investidor, vice-presidente executivo da Trump Organization e sócio da 1789 Capital. Temos também o Marcelo Clauri, fundador da Clauri Group e CEO global da SoftBank International. Wesley Batista, acionista, controlador e membro do conselho da JBS, uma das maiores empresas de alimento do mundo e com operações fortemente integradas entre Brasil e Estados Unidos. E também André Esteves, chairman e sócio sênior do BTG Pactual, uma das instituições financeiras mais relevantes da América Latina. Quero também agradecer aqui a quem de fato realmente ajudou a gente a organizar esse evento, Guilherme e André Gerdau, André Esteves e Salute, Wesley e Joesley, e Gustavo Pimenta e Sami Arapi Davani. Muito obrigada, e também queria agradecer à equipe Esfera por arregaçar a manga em todo o nosso evento e entregar uma experiência de excelência. Obrigada.
Muito obrigado, Camila. Agora, para iniciar o painel, a primeira pessoa que eu convido ao palco, gostaria de convidar Donald Trump Jr., vice-presidente executivo da Trump Organization. Mr. Trump Jr., welcome to our stage. Também gostaria de convidar ao palco para parte do nosso painel aqui. Thank you very much, Mr. Trump Jr. Gostaria de convidar também ao palco Omid Malik, presidente da 1789 Capital. Uma salva de palmas, a round of applause. E para participar desse diálogo tão importante, eu convido agora André Esteves, chairman do BTG Pactual. Também convido ao palco Marcelo Clauri, chairman da Shin América. Palmas. E Wesley Batista, acionista no grupo JF. Sejam todos bem-vindos, que esse painel seja muito proveitoso. Muito obrigado a todos pela presença aqui no palco. E agora, eu aproveito para lembrar que a partir de agora a gente terá o painel em inglês, justamente para os nossos convidados também participarem à vontade, ficarem à vontade com todas as perguntas. A mediação fica com a CEO Camila Camargo Dantas. Um bom painel a todos.
Thanks for being here with us this evening. Don, I'm going to start with you, okay? You've built businesses, investments, and partnership across many sectors at a moment when the global economy is being reshaped very quickly. You are also a partner at 1789 Capital, a firm that has been increasingly engaged in discussions around investments, economic transformations, and geopolitical change. From your perspective, what are the biggest changes today in the relationship between business, capital, and geopolitics?
Well, I think we've realized over the last few years, and certainly during time of COVID, that the supply chain is really important. And I think it's been captured by people who don't necessarily share our values and our interests. And so aligning our interests with other countries of similar values, decoupling from the dependence on China and other places around the world is really important. I think that leads to an incredible opportunity for American and Brazilian relations. You obviously have incredible minerals, agricultural departments, across the board. You also share a very common belief system that I think is so important in all of this. And so I think the strategy is that keeping those relationships there, expanding them, keeping the hemispheres sort of together and protecting our own backyard is just fundamentally important. So I think that's changed a lot. I think we all had a rude awakening again during the last administration and during COVID. And again, decoupling from China is going to be an important thing. And I understand the investment, obviously, of China into Brazil has been a large one that hasn't generally worked out for too many countries around the world, where they sort of are sold a bill of goods and not necessarily delivered. So we're excited about that opportunity. I think it's a great thing for the world. I think it's a great thing for both of our countries and fundamentally important.
Great, thank you. Omid, 1789 Capital has grown very quickly and attracted enormous attention in a short period of time. What do you believe explains the success of the firm, and why do you think its vision has resonated so strongly with investors?
Well, I think picking up on what Don said is when Don and I started the firm, it was not very popular to talk the way we were talking. It was during the Biden administration in 2022. And what you saw was really the idea of ESG and globalization, I think, reach its zenith. The idea that countries and the concept of nation states had become trite, and instead people wanted to have global government or global views. And unfortunately, that, I think, just defies the way the world works. What we think is very consistent with his father, which is, if you're an American, you should have America first. If you're Brazilian, you should have Brazil first. We are different nations, but we can have allies. And what was happening in the economy is that even some funds were not putting the return of the shareholders first, or their investors. They were doing these ideas about environment and all these other concepts that I think made no sense, and quite frankly, Don and I believe was a scam. And what we said was we're going to
It was a scam.
Okay, so I'm going to be polite, but yeah, it was a scam. So what we decided to do was come in and say we are going to put our investments in America, and I think everybody here recognizes that America is the capital of innovation, and we're investing in artificial intelligence, defense tech, things that are going to enhance the security and the prosperity of the United States. If you have a strong United States, you have a strong world. If the United States doesn't lead, then the world is weak. So this is the way our investment philosophy was designed. But yet at the same time, as Don said, we believe that we can have very strong allies within that, understanding that we made some mistakes by exporting our entire supply chain and manufacturing to another country like China. That doesn't work. What we need to do is have very good bilateral relationships, particularly with countries in our hemisphere like Brazil, which we have a long positive history with. I think we trade like $100 billion relationship with Brazil. There's no reason we can't increase that. And honestly, in the private sector, we've seen a lot of those partnerships that we have at 1789 with a lot of great people from Brazil.
Great. André, when you look at this new global environment, where do you think Brazil stands today? And do you really believe international investors are paying more attention to our country?
Yes, I do. First of all, congratulations, Camila, João, for this beautiful night sponsored by Esfera. It's a great work, connecting dots that you guys have been doing for a few years now. I had the privilege of being part of the story of Esfera, and I'm proud of what you guys have built. As Don and Omid said, the answer is clearly yes. I think it's we are looking on a different world from a geopolitical point of view. I think global supply chains are reorganizing, and things like food security or energy security became crucial. In this sense, Latin America is an interesting, Brazil and Latin America, it's a very interesting place to be. In this more diversified, multipolar world, Latin America, Brazil and Latin offers a number of interesting characteristics to global investors. It's a geopolitically peaceful region of the world. It's predictable geopolitics. If you look the last 12 months, the societies in Latin America had chosen to move in the direction of business-friendly environments, right? We had elections in Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Argentina, Costa Rica. All these countries moved in a direction of business-friendly environment, which is now basically all Latin America is business-friendly. And I'm not talking about left or right, I'm talking about policies. Brazil and Latam, we are basically the low-cost producer of almost any commodities, right? If you look on the agri sector, we are the low-cost producer of grains, sugar, coffee, proteins, pulp, on metals and mining. Brazil and Latam, low-cost producer of iron ore, copper, huge reserves of lithium, of rare earths there, and even in energy, right? Brazil is the low-cost producer of renewable energy and also a very relevant oil exporter, right? Sometimes we don't notice, but Brazil exported twice what Iran exported last year. So if it was an OPEC country, it would be probably number 5. So I think all of these put back Latin America in this more decentralized world on the investment map. And that's why we are seeing good performance on our local markets, both in currencies or in equity markets, which is a very good environment for investments. And of course, we have a natural cultural alignment to US. This week here in New York, for a few decades, Don and Omi, this event of this week is not this year or last year or past decade. I think it's 50-something years of Person of the Year, which is a celebration of the Brazil-US Chamber of Commerce. And shows and demonstrates not only the friendship, but the cultural alignment and the business links between Brazil and US.
Thank you. Marcelo, years ago, when most global investors were still skeptical about Latin America, you made one of the largest technology investments bets ever made in the region through SoftBank Latin America funds. Today, after investing across technology, AI, education, and digital platforms, what opportunities do you envision for Latin America, and in Brazil in particular, in this new global environment?
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's an honor to share the stage with great partners. So the common denominator, I'm an investor in Wesley's company, in Andre, in the fund, so we're in really good company. You know, Brazil is an interesting place for me. For the last 20 years, all we heard is this is the year of Brazil, this is the year of Brazil, this is the year of Brazil, and the year of Brazil never arrived because we always had difficulties.
Will it arrive?
And I do believe that finally, Brazil and Latin America have an edge. And in order for you to win, you got to have a differentiator. And we're in the middle of what I would believe probably the most advanced revolution we've ever going to experience, which is the AI revolution. So you have to ask yourself, what can Brazil and what can Latin America contribute to this revolution? From an energy perspective, Brazil is incredibly well positioned, right? The price of energy in Brazil is one of the cheapest in the world. There's excess energy, and Brazil is lucky, to have an energy that's probably the cleanest energy in the world.
That's why you're a shareholder of a Brazilian energy company.
Exactly. One. Two, Latin America, the fact that Mexico is now the largest trading partner to the US and no longer China, from a supply chain perspective, Mexico is incredibly well positioned to basically continue to export its products and be its largest trading partner. From a semiconductor perspective, NVIDIA is building one of the largest factories in Mexico, in Monterrey, so from a supply chain perspective, that's incredibly important. And if we all believe in AI, and we believe that one of the biggest contributions of AI is going to be that we're all going to live much longer, some predictions say today that we might live, the people that are being born today, 120, 150 years. Brazil is uniquely positioned because the world is going to need more food than ever. And my partner here to the right, as he produces one of the largest producers of protein in the world, and soybeans and others, Brazil has just so many competitive advantages that I think finally the year of Brazil, or the decade of Brazil, has finally arrived. I hope that the relationship between the US and Brazil continue to strengthen themselves. I've been very lucky to know the two leaders, and even though ideologically they're a bit different, I think they both share an incredible belief and love for their country. And I do hope that things will continue to get better. So I'm very bullish on Brazil. I will continue to invest in Brazil. I love the technology investments that we've done in Brazil. So again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Wesley, few Brazilian business leaders have your experience building operations, investing capital, and creating jobs in both Brazil and United States. At a time of such trade uncertainty, how is Brazil and United States relationship evolving, and is it becoming ever more relevant?
So, thank you for being here, Camila. Congratulations to you, João Camargo, and Esfera. It's a great pleasure and honor to be in this panel with so much great speakers here, much smarter than me. So I'm going to tell you one thing. I have the greatest experience in my life in 2007 when a Brazilian company, invested in the US. We were a pure Brazilian beef player, and we acquired Swift here in the US in 2007. And I have the privilege, personally, to move to the US with my family, my kids, and in Colorado. And I spent 4 years living there, and what was one of the greatest experience in my life, and this means a lot what JBS it is today. You know what I mean? The combination of our culture and the combination what we learn here. We learned a lot of things in the US in terms of discipline, in terms of pragmatism, in terms of getting things done, operating the business really straightforward. So I'm suspicion. I say all the time I'm suspicion because I'm so a big fan of this country. I'm a big I incentivated everyone, every Brazilian in the banking sector, in the industrial sector, in any sector. We can go to US and we can operate in the US because we have so much similarity. We are two countries that has huge, geography size, in terms of the size of the country, US and Brazil, population, 200 million there, 300 million here. We have a lot of similarities. We are the largest beef producers globally, Brazil and US. We are the largest chicken producer, Brazil and US. We are the largest soybean producer, Brazil and US. We are the largest corn producer, Brazil and US. All of us have been traveling all over the world. I never found any country so similar like Brazil and US. You go any country in Europe, you go any country in Asia, you go any country in Africa, you are not gonna find so much similarity. We grew up, you know, in the farming culture like the Americans, family farm, you know, American farms like we do in Brazil. So, for me, we have so much similarity. We can work together. Brazil is the biggest democracy, one of the biggest two democracies around the world, right?
Brazil, US, and India.
Yeah, Brazil, US, and India. So we should work more and more and more. We should, all of us, Brazilians, should incentivize our country to tie up with US. This is our natural, you know, we should connect here, not to the other way around, to the other side of the world. And the same thing US, you know, has a great partner, very close to them here, that is one of the largest country around the world, that they should tie up with us. So I'm a big fan. We have a operation here. So we have 78,000 employees in US. We operate in 31 states in this country. We operate more than 60 production facilities, beef, chicken, or pork. We work with more than 10,000 family farmers, Americans that produce chicken or hogs. And we really enjoy working here. And for all the Brazilians here, I incentivize everyone here. Everyone, if you have interest, come to invest here, that this is a great country.
The biggest fan ever,
I agree.
right, Don?
I agree. Hey, you're hired.
And I'm not speaking because you here. I'm serious. I'm not speaking because you are here. Your father is the president. Is gonna not be the president a few years after.
Don will be the next.
Yeah, maybe he can be the next.
Oh, boy.
Regardless who is going to be the next president, this is a great country to invest.
Great. Don, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want André to comment about it, okay? So, looking ahead, what future do you envision for Venezuela over the next few years? Do you believe the country can realistically rebuild its economy?
I really do. I mean, it has some of the most vast resources of any country in the world. It was one of the richest nations in the world before it sort of went down that experimental road of communism, which has not really worked out all that well for pretty much anyone. I think, you know, the opportunity there now abounds, and I think that could be a trilateral type of relationship where you take the best of all three of those countries. It seems like the new administration, you know, don't get involved on the political side of other countries, but it seems like the new administration's working very well with the United States to really maximize the resources that they have. I mean, they had all of this in the ground, but didn't necessarily have the expertise or allowed things to get decrepit and fall apart. You know, that didn't work as sort of a narco state, which is essentially what it was for, you know, far too long. I think, you know, with American technology, with help of other allies around the world, with the help of, you know, a democratic regime actually doing what's best for the people, I think that's incredible. I think a relationship with the United States, again, segmenting out Iran and China, which were some of the biggest backers, and, you know, people said, why would America get involved with this? It's like, well, why would China get involved with it? Why was Iran getting involved with it? It was because of power. It was because of those resources. And again, protecting our hemisphere. Literally, you know, if we live in Florida, that's pretty close. That's our backyard, and yet we're focused on places that are thousands of miles away that wouldn't really change all that much for the average American. I mean, I think this opportunity absolutely abounds, and that's frankly evidenced by all of the people in America who are from Venezuela, who escaped, who brought those same values that we were talking about just now. I refer to God, family, country. You know, our hemisphere shares a lot of things that are missing in a lot of other parts of the world, and I think having a symbiotic relationship between those countries, and again, you know, other countries such as Brazil, I think creates an incredible opportunity for all of the Americas, and something that's really going to be important into the future.
Well, I not only agree with what Don said about Venezuela, but goes in the context of how I describe at the moment Latin America. I think Venezuela is an extremely rich country in terms of energy sources, right? It's when you look what happened in Venezuela in the last 20 years, the deterioration of the country, including the oil production. During the 90s, which is not long ago, all of us were there. PDVSA, the state-owned company of Venezuela, was the role model for Petrobras in terms of engineer, in terms of productivity, and in terms of achievements. And look at what happened. Today, PDVSA value is less than 5% of Petrobras. So with huge reserves of oil and gas in different formats, in different ways, and with very low geological risk. So I think there's important action that happened in Venezuela, which is unexpected, surprising, different, but a surprising, different, unexpected situation require this kind of action. I hope that this it's another layer of stabilization in the region. So, and I'm very glad, you know, Don, that I think after many years, U.S. is paying much more attention to Latin America. I think here we can provide a lot of resource. We have a natural cultural alignment, and I not only agree with Wesley, but I would go further. If you compare Brazil culturally, sociologically, to other countries, to Latin America, Brazil is more similar to U.S. than to the rest of Latin America, which is more the Andean countries, more Spanish kind of culture. Brazil is an immigrant-based society, mixed, that speaks the same language, has the same culture in a big country, exactly like U.S. If you look, the largest population of Italians outside Italy are in West Brazil. Afro-descendants, U.S. and Brazil. Japanese, U.S., Brazil. All of that mixed in the middle of the same society that speaks the same language, right? To remember, Switzerland is the size of Rio de Janeiro and speaks 3 different languages. So I think the Venezuela step and the transition to a full democracy is quite relevant for Latin America, for this mosaic of democracies, liberal democracies, free markets, business-friendly Latin America, I think was a very important step.
Marcelo, as someone currently investing across AI, private equity, education, and technology platforms, what would you focus your attention in Latin America today?
I mean, there's many things to invest in Latin America, but I want to second a little what Andre and Don has. The reality is the U.S. had forgotten about Latin America in previous administrations. Nobody really cared. And it's refreshing, even from having a Secretary of State, who's Marco Rubio, who's Latino, it actually makes a big difference because I feel the U.S. is going back to the time where they paid attention. Obviously, Latin America has many things that the U.S., I think it's a symbiotic relationship because both need each other, right? Latin America has today, from a critical minerals, over 40% of all critical minerals in the world sit within Latin America. Lithium, who will power energy, I think close to 60, 70% just sit between Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina, and so on, you know, from a food perspective and on. So I think there's an incredible amount of potential opportunities in energy and many different areas. I'll change a little bit around, right? And I'll tell you a little my quick story, right? One of the biggest frustrating things for me was the lack of money invested in Latin American venture capital. So back in 2021, we took 8% of the Vision Fund, $8 billion, and we invested into Latin American technology companies. And there's a lot of pride in the companies that have been built. I mean, you look at companies like Nubank today, right? It's 65 to 75 billion market cap, was a company that we invested on, but it's a company that basically fixed the financial issues of Brazilians. It started as a Brazilian company. You look at Mercado Libre, who's one of the leaders in e-commerce. It's an Argentinian founder, but most of the revenue comes from Brazil. So Brazil is the backbone, and today it's a company that trades in the 130, 140 billion that makes a lot of Latin American proud. There's a tremendous amount of technology companies that are being founded in Latin America today. So from my end, I continue to invest, every year hundreds of millions of dollars into Latin American technology entrepreneurs who are solving issues in Latin America to make Latin America better.
Thank you. Wesley, JBS started as a small business in the countryside of Brazil, as you said, and became one of the world's largest food companies. Today, much of its revenues come from the United States, as you mentioned it, and its operations are deeply integrated across both countries. What does this journey say about the ability of Brazilian companies to compete globally, and what lessons matter most for founders thinking about the long-term scale?
Camila, I think the Brazilians has, the entrepreneur spirit naturally is inside of us. We are competitive, we are entrepreneurs, and maybe I think we are getting less and less afraid to go outside of Brazil. But I think our spirit, we can go outside and we can make things happen in other countries. We grew up, all of us here, we grew up living a lot of turmoils, inflation, all things happening. I think we grow up in a business environmental that, hostile, yeah, a hostile, business environmental that create in all of us, that is business people in Brazil, entrepreneurship that we can, face different challenges. And I will tell you what, I say this all the time. Here, it's easier than there. It's easier. To do business in the US is easier than to do business in Brazil.
What do you think Brazil should learn about that?
When I moved to US, I was hearing about the cost to do business in Brazil, the cost to do business in Brazil. I thought that I knew what means the cost to do business in Brazil. When I moved to here, I started to realize exactly what is the difference, the cost to do business here and the cost to do business there. Here, we have 78,000 employees. Over there, we have 170,000 employees. We have 30,000 legal labor dispute in Brazil. Here, we have 78,000 employees. We have zero. Our legal department here in Greeley, Colorado, yes, serious, 30,000 labor dispute. Here in Colorado, we have 10 people in our legal department here, between lawyers, and estagiários, I don't know how to say this in English, interns lawyers. In Brazil, just internal, we have 150 lawyers, between lawyers and outside escritórios, outsource lawyers, we have another 70. So it's amazing. You know, the difference is, I think, is what we should learn in Brazil from US. I say to our team, if we can combine, you know, our experience in Brazil and the experience here in the US, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing. If we can combine the two experience, no one can compete with us. Donald Trump. No one can compete with us. Brazil and US, we are so dynamic, but we need to, you know, be really combining the experience between both countries. But Europe, Africa, Asia, none of these countries can compete with Brazil and US.
Donald, as today tariffs and trade policies demonstrate, I would like to draw your attention to an issue of financial stability. How concerned are you about the persistent current account imbalances between major economies?
Well, I think it's an important issue. It's something that's frankly gone on for far too long as it relates to America. I've said for years, for the last half century, America's only export was our American dream. We sold our middle class down the river to, subsidize, 0.02 cents of a widget by, again, going back to supply chains, literally shipping all of that to China, mostly China, a couple other places. But we learned very quickly in the last few years, probably not the smartest thing. You can't have your entire biotech world subsidized there. You can't get all of your antibiotics from someone who's certainly not, politically aligned, and in many cases would be seen as an enemy, especially on a geopolitical standpoint. You saw the same thing happening with energy, and then you saw what Omid brought up, which was sort of the notion of the infiltration of ESG and these sorts of policies into the United States, where on day one, Joe Biden campaigned, oh no, well before energy, day one, Keystone Pipeline gone. Tens of thousands of hardworking American jobs gone. And instead what we did at the time, we subsidized that by going to Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terror, probably not an awesome idea, and Venezuela at the time, which was a regime we didn't even recognize. What civilization could survive making those kinds of decisions? And so we have to get back to protecting ourselves, making sure those are aligned, but doing that with people who share a mentality and a culture is much easier, much safer, and much more secure. I don't think anyone, when we talk about bringing manufacturing back to the United States, I don't think anyone's talking about making the G.I. Joe figure that goes in a cereal box in the United States. But we do have to make our antibiotics. We do have to make our microchips. We can't be dependent, even frankly on Taiwan, which could get sucked into one of these geopolitical things, and then what happens? We've seen what that has done, and we've done it to ourselves for far too long. So what we have to do is we have to ally with people who have a common interest, who have a common ideology, who have common sense, and understand what the world is, and diversify a lot of those positions so that we're able to succeed and that it can't be cut off in an instant. Because if it is, we have a lot of problems. Omid again touched on this one, which is what we did learn under the Biden administration. Sometimes maybe the best thing that actually happened to America was that we experienced that, because we learned very quickly that democracy is fragile. We also learned very quickly that all of the things that we took for granted can disappear almost in an instant. We went from a time of prosperity to a time of not so much prosperity, to a time of almost dependence. And we can't allow that to ever happen. So we actually needed that to happen to understand just how quickly it can all go away. And so creating these sort of alliances between countries that make sense, that share these interests, is of fundamental importance. And we just can't repeat those mistakes of the past, again, to save a few cents here and there. And again, I think this is one of those alliances where that can happen very easily.
Can I just say one thing on the trade imbalance specifically? the countries that complain about America putting tariffs on them say that tariffs are bad, but then why do they tariff all of our goods? No one answered that question. If tariffs are so bad, why does India use them against us? If
Try to buy a Ford in China.
Right. If tariffs are so bad, why did China require that any company in America that goes over there has to have a local partner that owns 51% of a company? It's all hypocrisy. So Donald Trump was right to use tariffs as a negotiating tool. It's not, you can't look at it as in a vacuum in isolation. It's part of a geopolitical strategy. By putting tariffs on people who are abusing the United States, you led to about $13 trillion of foreign direct investment as a result of that. Not to mention also tariff revenue that I still think we're going to somehow get deemed constitutional, because it is. The Supreme Court made a very bad decision there, if I may say so, about tariffs. But it's absolutely imperative. I would much rather have a president using diplomacy and tariffs than going to wars, in order to try to get things right. And the other thing I'd say is a top 3 issue in the election in '24 was around immigration. So the interest in Latin America is not just because we want to do it for fun, it's that it was completely out of control. You had over 20 million people during the Biden administration coming in illegally across our border. And that's a result of failed policies within Latin America. The US has to take our own hemisphere seriously because it damages our country if you have a bunch of people leaving these countries and coming in across our border. So we have an incentive to have a safe and secure hemisphere because it relates to, again, the immigration issue, which is not talked about enough, I think. So all of those things, a strong, secure border, physically, but then also economically, is how we get America back and we reindustrialize the country.
Omid, I'll go on with you. So answer me in 1 minute. As the founder of 1789, how do you envision the future of the defense sector?
So one of the other areas in the United States that has, I think, also kind of atrophied in a way was defense. Generally, you had what we call primes, which is 2 or 3 businesses that engage in a concept of cost plus. So there's no capitalism because you only have 2 or 3 options that are colluding in order to just jack up the American taxpayer. And the system itself, I think, had a lot of fraud and abuse in it. An area that we are highly invested in is called defense tech in the United States, which is an area where you're creating the innovation of Silicon Valley that I described earlier. And now you're selling that into the US military. For the first time in this administration, you have a Department of War, we renamed the Department of Defense Department of War, that is now engaging in these startups to get this new technology. As you're seeing in combat, whether it's Ukraine and Russia or other hot kinetic wars, just having these expensive ships or planes is not how modern warfare is fought. Autonomy is becoming a real thing with drones, and you have to have that innovative technology around there. And again, a lot of what we're describing here in artificial intelligence has significant geopolitical ramifications. It's not just about having an LLM that can answer questions for you. We are in hand-to-hand combat with China. If you control AI, then I think you're going to control the future. We cannot have the United States dependent on Chinese models. So I'll give one example of that. In the United States here, our fund invested in the only open weight model called Reflection AI here in the US. Most people were using DeepSeek, which is Chinese technology. And you can't have the US do that. So even in the case of Brazil, we want all allied nations with the US to use US technology in the AI sector. It's the same thing we had with 5G several years ago, where Huawei had a lead and infiltrated Europe, and we had to have catch up. So the point I'm making to you is defense tech is not just in aggressive things that are shooting people, it's also in technology as well, right?
André, in 1 minute, what do you think is the biggest risk to Brazil's long-term competitiveness?
As I said before, of course, in Brazil we have an issue of productivity. And our productivity growth has been much lower than it should in the last 20 years. When we talk about all this tech revolution, Brazil is behind that. But not necessarily this is all bad. sometimes when you are behind, you also have the chance of leapfrog the revolution. So what is happening in AI, it's a new level playing field, right? It's everybody is more or less on the same page. And what we need to do as a young and connected society like Brazil is, let's remember, Brazil is the second most important market of Uber, of Meta, of SpaceX, second largest market, and very close to US in many of them. I think a very connected society, very digital society, so we have the chance of adopting this new technology that is available more or less at the same time to all of us as fast, as deep as we can. So here we are among corporate leaders, and I encourage all of us to really embrace this new technology because it will make a lot of difference. So that's one side of the question. The other side of the question is related to another silent war, which is the institutional Brazil, which is us here in this room, against the non-institutional Brazil. This is a war that we cannot lose. So we have all this organized crime and progressing and proliferating, including on the political scene in a number of states. I think this is one of the most important, if not the most important battle of our times. We, institutional Brazil, here represented, cannot lose from the non-institutional Brazil. That's my comment.
Marcelo, in 1 minute, what does Latin America need to build over the next 25 years to become a more relevant global region in technology?
So I'll leave this a little more to Brazil. I think one of the fallacies of Brazil is that it's a country that's very close, and we don't like to talk about it. It's a very protectionist country, has some of the highest import duties in the world, and then Brazilians get mad when they put duties on the other side. To import products in Brazil is extremely difficult, number one. Brazil needs major reforms, right? You just spoke about the legal reform. Brazil, the amount of open lawsuits that you have for anything that you do. So Brazil needs to open itself to the world. Brazil needs to have a legal reform, social reform, tax reform. It still continues to be one of the most difficult countries to do in the world. So Brazil, from a natural resource, has absolutely everything. From a population, has 200 million people. It's a digitally, one of the things that Andres says, any new technology that comes up, the Brazilians automatically just devour it. An example, today, there's a higher usage of Claude, which is Anthropic's LLM. 75% of the Brazilian population uses AI, much higher than the United States and all that. So I think Brazil has everything, but if we're very honest, Brazil needs major structural reforms that are very difficult to accomplish that would only make the country more competitive in the future if it does that.
Should we be hopeful?
I think so. I mean, I think little by little we're getting to tax reform. It's only taken about, 10, 15 years. And I think one after another, if we do those reforms, Brazil has absolutely everything to win.
Well, we did labor reform, social security reform, tax reform in 3 different governments. I think it's not government A or government B. It's us, the society, are pushing whoever is on power on the direction of modernization of our economy and our society.
And Wesley, in 1 minute, how do you envision the future of global food supply and security?
I think definitely Brazil is going to play a key role in food supply globally. Brazil has the potential to increase food production across the board and using the same area that Brazil has today, applying technology, and I think this is one of the great things that Brazil can, get the advantage using technology from US and from countries that can help Brazil to produce much more. For example, Camila, we have double size of the herd of the US. We have 200 million head of cattle. US is in the lowest cycle ever in terms of the herd size. US used to be 100,000 head of cattle. Now is close to 80,000 head of cattle. But US produce almost the same amount of beef as Brazil produce, having 200 million head of cattle. Why? Is, technology, is genetic. US is investing, the herd size here is much bigger. The amount of meat that you produce in the same head here is far bigger than in Brazil. So overall, I think Brazil is the market that is going to play a key role in food production and growing food production in the coming years. And just to finalize, I think, the combination of US and Brazil partnership is going to create a lot of great things for both countries. We have a lot of similarities. I'm going to reemphasize this because I have the experience living in Brazil, coming here, and running a sizable business here, a sizable business there. Brazil and US is the two countries that has more similarities across all of the world.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask for us to stand here in front so we can take a picture of the whole group.
Muito obrigado aos nossos painelistas que estavam aqui. Mais uma salva de palmas. Eu aproveito também para anunciar o momento solene da cerimônia. A gente vai homenagear duas figuras muito importantes para o setor privado brasileiro, consequentemente para o Brasil, por meio da inovação, da atração de investimentos e da geração de empregos. Eu peço que o Donald Trump Jr., Mr. Donald Trump Jr., please remain here on stage with us. Isso. Vamos receber agora os nossos dois homenageados no palco, por isso eu chamo justamente agora um dos principais nomes do setor imobiliário de alto padrão no Brasil e responsável por transformar a JHSF em um grupo diversificado com atuação que vai de incorporações residenciais, a hotelaria e a aviação executiva. À frente do Conselho de Administração tem um papel central na consolidação de projetos emblemáticos e também na expansão internacional da companhia. Zeco Auriemo Neto, por favor, seja bem-vindo ao nosso palco. E também Cristiano Amon, venham para o nosso palco, por gentileza. Vou pedir agora para o presidente do Conselho da Esfera Brasil, João Camargo, vai entregar agora a homenagem ao Zeca Auriemo, por favor, João. E Camila, por favor, receba esse prêmio da Camila, Cristiano Amon, essa homenagem da Esfera Brasil. Muito obrigado. Zeca, eu vou pedir que o senhor, por favor, dedique algumas palavras aqui, por gentileza. Cristiano também, fique aqui também para dedicar algumas palavras.
Boa noite a todos. Muito obrigado por estar aqui hoje. João e a equipe da Esfera. Para mim é um prazer muito grande dividir essa homenagem com o Cristiano, que admiramos muito pela trajetória à frente da Qualcomm. E também é um prazer bastante grande estar aqui com vocês hoje à noite. Eu acho que o reconhecimento é um reconhecimento não só meu, né, como pessoa, mas é um reconhecimento à trajetória da JHSF. A JHSF é uma empresa de 60 anos, foi fundada pelo meu pai e a gente hoje tem mais de 6.000 pessoas trabalhando com a gente. Então, fazendo um trocadilho e lembrando um pouco das histórias desde que a gente recebeu a notícia da homenagem, acho que a melhor expressão de como a gente encara isso foi a nossa conversa com o Nizam Guanais, que a gente estava falando, Nizam, ele estava falando, parabéns, vocês receberam uma homenagem bonita, você foi considerado Person of the Year. Eu falei, Nizam, esse negócio não é a pessoa, é a empresa, coisa e tal. E o Nizam virou para mim e falou assim, tá certo. Então, o prêmio não é Person of the Year, é People of the Year. E a gente achou que isso foi uma maneira, vamos dizer, muito simpática de poder, vamos dizer assim, reconhecer, né, não só a história da empresa, mas também a história das pessoas e do time todo que trabalha lá. Então, João, muito obrigado. Para a gente é um orgulho estar aqui. Boa noite a todos.
Cristiano, por favor, agora, se você puder trazer algumas palavras para os nossos convidados aqui presentes. Obrigado.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cristiano Armand, the President and CEO of Qualcomm. It's an incredible honor for me to receive this award. Growing up in Brazil, and went to engineering school, I never expected that one day I'll be leading this incredible company. I think the award doesn't go just to me, but it really goes to the incredible people of Qualcomm in San Diego. E para os meus irmãos brasileiros aqui presentes, eu quero agradecer muito a homenagem, é uma honra muito grande para mim. Eu agradeço muito a presença de vocês e obrigado por estar conosco esta noite. Obrigado.